Hello and welcome. My name is Stella Morese, and today I'll be talking to you about the voices from the deep. So, what I'm speaking to about the voices from the deep is your intuition. So, what I'm looking to do is to help you understand the very immense power of your intuition as it is the expression of the sacred that you are. So, let's delve right in. Just a little bit about me. My name is Stella Moresi. I am an educator to the Well Systems Paradigm. I live and breathe this work, and I'm a certified code model coach. In my previous life, I worked as a policy analyst for the Government of Canada, and I pursued a career in criminology because I was very interested in victimology and what makes people behave the way that they do. So very interested in the human psyche and the relationship and the interconnectivity between how we behave and what's actually going on in the world, cultural conditioning, as one would say now. What I want to talk to you today is about what it takes to transform our own internal states through our intuition. So I share this quote with you by Louise Lebrun, the founder of the Well Systems Institute, because I think this is exactly what it takes to take ownership of our lives and to begin to awaken to our own deep, intuitive inner knowings, because they are, like I said, sacred, an expression of the sacred. So transformation requires safety, science, and a touch of the sacred. Anything less, and all you get is incremental change. This is really critical because if you're looking for accelerated change, if you're looking to really get moving in your life, what you're looking to do is marry all of these so that you notice that you can transform the quality of your life. So let's delve right in to what is intuition and what does it mean to be intuitive. So your intuition speaks to you and reveals to you the truth of your experience. Your intuition does not speak to you in a planned and predictable sort of way. It actually just sort of shows up, right? Your intuition, it's a knowing that shows up and surprises you. You cannot schedule being intuitive and listening to your intuition. You either are in the moment and you hear it, or you're not. And in the moments where you're not, you actually get another chance to hear, because the new moment you can hear the truth of your experience. So the question is, do you know how to pay attention to this emergence, right? To this emergence of a revelation inside your being. Your intuition does not speak to you. There's a temporal component. There's a spatial and temporal component to how your intuition actually moves, how that voice from the deep moves up and through the body or gets downloaded into the body, both directions. That is your intuitive knowing, letting you know something about yourself. So you can only hear your intuition the moment that you're in. You can't hear your intuition in the past. It doesn't exist. And you can't hear your intuition in the future. It also doesn't exist. However, your intuitive knowing in the moment is just an emergence of something that shows up and grabs your attention. And it can only be in the moment that you're in. And it can only be transmuted through your body. So the question is, do you know how to pay attention? And what gets in the way? So this is a critical, important slide that I want to touch on a little bit, because your intuition, so that deep inner knowing, that voice from within, gets masked by your intellect. So it gets masked by your cultural conditioning, by the internalized cultural conditioning that you believe is real. So the things that you have anchored into your body, into your nervous system as real, because it's not everybody has the same experience, right? It depends on what your unique experience is and what you consider to be real and true for you, given your historical undertaking. So the fact is that we are programmable, right? We have been programmed to be who we are, because when we are programmable in a particular kind of way, we're actually predictable. When we're moving through and taking the steps of the culture, we are predictable. When we're told what to do and then we do it, we are predictable. And so therefore we're easily manipulatable and all that sort of stuff that goes with it. So how do you know what's real and true for you? How much of your own mind have you owned for yourself? So how much of your own mind are you aware of? These are my own unique thoughts, and these are not. Because the truth of it is we have 65,000 thoughts a day. 65,000 thoughts a day. How many of those thoughts are repetitive thoughts from one moment to the next? And how many of those thoughts are thoughts that berate you? How many of those thoughts are thoughts that actually make you feel incapable, incompetent, all that sort of stuff, imposter syndrome and all that sort of stuff that comes up for women? How many of those thoughts do you have in a day? And if that's the majority of the thoughts that you have, well, in fact, what's happening is your intellect has hijacked your body. And so your intuition, it's really hard to hear your intuition speak to you when there's so many other loud voices taking real estate in your body. So the truth of it is that reality is constructed. So I spent my master's degree on this topic, is how reality is constructed and who gets voice and who doesn't, and all this sort of stuff. If you're curious to check it out, it's 100 pages of stuff, 180 pages. Doesn't matter. Reality is constructed, and the question is, who shapes the narrative? So who shapes the narrative of the reality that you experience? Because we now know from scientific findings that our reality is holographic. Mind is holographic. It is a projection. The universe is holographic. It is a projection of how we interpret things in and through our body, through our perceptual filters. That's what determines our reality. So you and I can be at the same place, having the same experience, looking at the same people, having the same conversation. But what I derive out of it and what you derive out of it are vastly different things. So that is one quick example of how your reality is constructed and how it's holographic. Because based on what's going on inside you, that's what you're going to see. That whole thing about, I don't remember what the saying is, but, everything looks like a nail. Anyway, so the point is that the perceptual filters that you carry tell you about your world. It may or may not be quote unquote real, whatever that is, that's for another topic. However, what it does is it allows you to notice that your perceptual filters shape your reality, which then means that reality is all an illusion. So the question becomes, how do you want to shape the illusion of your own reality, which is your life? So there's paradoxes within paradoxes, but bear with me, this is a short presentation. So the way that we hear our intuition, that voice from the deep, is not from planning, is not from our intellect, is not from our cultural conditioning and our programming. It's actually simply from the moment that we're in. And in the moment that we're in, the one thing that every human being on this planet has is a body. And it is through this body that we can actually pick up and hear the voice of intuition, that signal from self, as we call it in the Well Systems paradigm. And if you're curious about how this works, I encourage you to check out Nassim Haramein's Science and the backing of this exploration of what it means to be human, because what it means to be human is to be able to actually touch our own divinity. In the Well Systems paradigm, so the way that we experience our own divinity is through the body. And the body is not what you and I have been conditioned to believe that it is. The body is a magnificent quantum biological processing device that is in fact designed to digest and metabolize, just like it digests and metabolizes your food, all the information that's in flow. So whether that's waves, whether that's an emotion, whether that's energy, whatever it is that moves through the body, independent of your labels, your body knows how to digest it. So the body can do that because it's not discerning, right? It has no judgments. The body knows simply information and flow. It doesn't know good emotion or bad emotion. Those are social constructs that we impose on the body to tell it whether it's right or wrong, and then we shut it down, and then we do all the things that are familiar to us through our cultural conditioning. So the things that have been habituated through our cultural conditioning It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's simply a matter of how's that working for you. So you have to decide whether or not it is or it isn't. And what you've got to really understand is that your nervous system is key. If your nervous system is in a sympathetic nervous response, fight, flight, freeze, you're constantly on edge. You're constantly seeking for what's wrong. You're constantly seeking scarcity. When your nervous system is in a parasympathetic nervous response, what happens is you're calm, you're present, you're aware, you're awake, you're mindful. And from that state, you can actually make congruent decisions, congruent choices that move you toward an abundant life, that move you toward hearing your own intuitive knowing and then acting from it, like choosing to act from it. So what quantum TLC does, and I think that's on the next slide actually. So it's really just important to notice that your body processes at the speed of 3 trillion cellular interactions per second, whereas your intellect can only process 7. So I encourage you to notice that your body's far, far more powerful at processing what's going on in your body, what's going on in your experience, than your intellect can ever be. So just food for thought. Fact check me on this. All good. But make sure that you hear this and notice what your own intuitive voice says as you hear that. So quantum TLC is the gateway to self-discovery, is the gateway to discovering our own sacredness. It's the gateway to discovering our own majesticness, our own greatness. It's an incredible process that we apply in order to overcome our perceived limitations. And according to Greg Braden, that's how you define divinity, is you overcome perceived limitations. And we do that one intentional, congruent choice at a time. What quantum TLC does is it allows you to open and expand your body. It allows you to let go of the stories. It allows you to be able to hear your intuition so that you are not trapped in your stories of your history, in the strategies that you've employed your whole life, or the beliefs that limit you about yourself. So instead, you honor the genius of the moment. You honor the truth of your experience. You honor what's actually there, and you give your body permission to digest and metabolize what's going on. You give your body permission to process, in other words, what's going on in your body. So if you are one of the people that's seeking a new way to engage, I invite you to consider that there is a possibility out there for you, and I invite you to check out the Well Systems Institute and what it can offer you right here, right now, in terms of your accelerated personal evolution. So this is important because if we're going about our life through incremental change and we're seeking acceleration, we're going to be trapped in the smallness of our lives. So this way that I'm speaking to you about, it allows you to shed your culturally conditioned identity and discover who really are you? Like, what's your real emerging authentic self? And you can do that only through listening to the deep intuitive voice of your inner wisdom. You can also transform your relationship with yourself. And then the question becomes, what is self? That's a very good question. This is how you become an empowered and powerful leader self as opposed to follower of everybody else's story. So how do you become your own leader? How do you become your own creator in your own reality? And finally, the process that I'm speaking about is reliable and replicable. So if you like science, that is key. And this is the Well Systems way of life. I'm running out of time, so I invite you to push pause on this video and read through each one of these points and just notice what actually comes up for you as you're reading it. These are the presuppositions that I work with that I know for myself are fundamental truths if I am to hear that deep inner voice from within. If and when you're ready to have a different type of conversation than the ones that you're used to, I invite you to join me for Igniting Your Potential. It's a monthly women gathering exploration. That's where you will get a taste of what these conversations are all about and their capacity to actually transform the quality of your life if you give yourself permission to. Then there's other self-directed evolutionary resources, which I'll happily share with you. One of which is the Decloaking and Living Authentically, and the other is the Cultural Crones. This one is free, so if you're curious about how we speak around here, I encourage you to download them and just listen. I hope you have a spectacular day. I hope you learn something about yourself, and I hope you choose to move through your world intuitively. I look forward to talking to you. Until next time.